right, if we're good, shall we begin? So, good afternoon, everyone. I'm really happy to be here. Good to see you all. We're all going to introduce ourselves, say a little bit about who we are, what it is we do. I want to say that as somebody who is at this moment a professor and dean at Columbia University, everything I say has nothing to do with Columbia. This is not something that is going to be endorsed by the university, but I do want to say that I have just celebrated 35 years as a member of the Faculty of Medicine and Public Health at Columbia. I have a very long career, very much engaged in understanding and studying what we now call substance use abuse, what we used to call addiction. I have been around for a while. January 25th, I celebrated 81 years on this planet. I go back 80 turns around the sun, and much of what I've observed over that time is something that I'm hoping we're going to tackle today. As someone who has worked a great deal in public health, who understands the stigma that is attached to drug use, the fact that we now have a legal substance that is present in our community, one that we used to worry about a great deal, but which has now become a source of what we hope will be income for the community. This is the moment to draw the curtain back, to see what is really going on with the presence of cannabis in our community, and do what we can to educate the community about the pluses that are associated with something that for the longest time was held as a bit of a community curse. I remember in 1962, in my freshman year in college, we were all shown a film, Reefer Madness.
Yep.
Some of you may have seen that, but you saw it as a joke. In 1962, it was included as a warning to all entering freshmen. This too could become you. A long time has passed since 1962. We are in a new era. And I think the best way to introduce what I see as some of the more dramatic changes in that era is to have our two panelists say something about themselves, say something about their work, and something about why they're so happy to be here with me to have this conversation with the community about where we go next.
Okay. First of all, everyone, thank you for coming out. I swear to God, if I was white, I'd be red from blushing. Because this like, really? I'm that, like, really? They care? My name is Leo Bridgewater, and I am a husband and a father of two. My 18-year-old thinks I'm corny, and my 8-year-old talks to me like I'm small. And so, as a husband, and my wife has a PhD in mathematics. And so, I met my match. And so, as a husband and a father of two, the times that I get to be 100% right about anything in my house, very few and far between. But when it comes to this cannabis thing, I've been 100% right. And so I've been talking. I'm spitting. So in 2016, I testified in Senate committee to have PTSD added as a qualifying condition to the New Jersey medical marijuana program, and Governor Chris Christie signed my bill into law, making PTSD the first entry. That made PTSD the first mental health qualifying condition. Now, as a veteran in the United States Army, I did 6 tours in Iraq and 4 in Afghanistan. Whoa. As both a soldier and a contractor. I ain't Rambo. I'm more like the spook by the door, because my actual career field was DoD telecommunications. I served on the staffs of General David Petraeus and Admiral Mike Mullins before they became director of the CIA and chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. So having to watch and understand and learn how there are some decisions that have to be made you just don't want to be a part of. Okay? I'll just leave it at that. Now, currently what I do now is I am co-founder and Chief Community Engagement Officer for Collective 60. It's my company, and my partner Eugene Monroe. And we're actually cannabis breeders. And it's through the advocacy side of things is how the business revealed itself to me. And so making that necessary move, it was only natural that I go into the business side, because, we can, there's a lot happening, and there's a lot I can tell you, but to be honest with you, I can show you better than I can tell you. And that's it. You know, there's a lot more. We'll talk about it as we get going.
You, bro. How you guys doing? Alvon Miller. Shoot, where can I start? I created a marketing company a long time ago called Burn It Down Group. Actually, the name came from my aunt, Colette, who was, she was a fighter in the Black Liberation Army, and she said to me that I reminded her of when like Huey P. Newton would come and do whatever they was doing and would be like, burn it down, burn it down. So the name actually came from that. And then, God being good, it spiraled to other things. I was blessed within my journey to be working for Eminem for 20 plus years as the director of marketing. Within that, did a lot of events, came up with this great event program called the Treehouse NYC about probably like 13 years ago. I pride myself on being the first person to actually be doing like these events in New York. It came from us, being in the regular clubs and spending so much money, whatever, and then security telling us, gotta put out the weed. It was weird to me, like, how could you allow people to intoxicate themselves foolishly with liquor, but you're telling us to turn off the weed when it kind of like is a more calming, more social thing that I thought. So we created this event series called the Treehouse. Complex, wrote up about us. LRG supported us. So that kind of like led me more into cannabis. And then my partner, Charlotte Butler, we had a budget and we was thinking about artists, and we came up with cool ideas and said, hey, why don't we create marijuana ice cream? So we got a chef, created marijuana ice cream, came with this new brand called Nice Cream. So that's like my imprint, so that's like what led me. So right now I'm trying to, get Nice Cream to be official out here. We do some underground things and some things, directly with labels and artists, creating like flavors and stuff like that. But, I'm a New Yorker, born in Harlem Hospital, raised in Brooklyn, schooled in Manhattan. So I'm here for the get down. Yeah.
Amen. So, gentlemen, I'd like to ask you both one simple question. You knew you were going to be present for this broadcast. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you must have said, I really hope I get to say. What would that have been? What was the one message that would be the top of your list of priorities, of things that you'd like to communicate to the group that's here and watching us on their screen? Let me begin with you.
Oh, wow, really? Wow. I would say, if you're still wondering about whether you should or shouldn't be doing the business of cannabis, understand it's not for the faint of heart. And recognize that this has been going on for a while. So let me just give you guys some things that you can wrap your brains around so that you can understand how far we've come. I live in Trenton, New Jersey, okay? Now, New Jersey at one point was arresting 24,000 people a year for low-level, nonviolent minor possession of cannabis. 80% of those arrests were people who look like me. What they don't tell you is that there was another study that came out that showed that people who look like me made up 80% of all use of force by police. So that tells you that the intentional targeting and tormenting people in communities of color in New Jersey was a thing. You know what else was a thing in New Jersey? In New Jersey, cops kill themselves a lot. Okay? It's a big thing. Yeah. Now, where are we today? Well, if you go down Route 29, where I live at, the Mercer County Workhouse is closed down. The Jones family farm, the last prisoner left the Jones family farm a year ago. So there are no more Department of Corrections inmates there. Bo Robinson detention facility has closed down. Well, now it's back open as an ICE detention, but it was closed down for a while, okay? And we are no longer spending $145 million a year prosecuting low-level, non-violent minor possession of cannabis.
Right.
So we have not spent that kind of money in 4 years. So ask yourself,
Where's it going?
where's that money?
Where's that money?
Because when we talk about cannabis, New Jersey just broke $1 billion in revenue, not even a few months ago, okay? And we're talking brand new, unaccounted for dollars. It's not like we robbing Peter to pay Paul. We're not taking from one state agency to another. In fact, right now, every single state agency in the state of New Jersey has been asked to do a budget cut except for one. It's the Cannabis Regulatory Commission. So this is hot. And we broke $1 billion with only 40% of the state open. Okay? Now understand something. New York City is the #1 cannabis consuming city in the world. Karachi, Pakistan is #2. New Delhi, India is #3. Los Angeles is #4. And y'all, Chicago's #8. New York and Chicago did 1 and 8 with it being illegal. Okay? So when we're talking about, New York, if you combine 2 and 3, you don't make up what New York does. New York consumes about 77 metric tons of cannabis a year. Okay? So if there's anything that I would want, blew y'all minds, yeah, now y'all up here doing the math in your head. Good. I hope y'all get mad. I hope you get so pissed off that you decide to do something about it tomorrow. Thank you very much. I got some more too.
Well, it's great that he said what he said, because I was gonna say community. It takes a village to raise a child. I would be one of those children that it took a lot of people. So just in my journey of coming along within cannabis and marketing, because I also market a lot of different cannabis products, so I see how a lot of the people that will access me to use my service are people who don't even smoke weed. So it was like, it's like very, surprising, and it's crazy. You got so many people, white and black, that want to make the dollar off cannabis, and they don't even partake in the plant or anything like that. So it's wild how you can be shunned for something in a certain regard, and then now it's the hot topic, is a hot thing. So my thing would be community, supporting your community, coming to places like this dispensary, supporting it in your community. Also expanding your thoughts and your ideas to dip your hand into what's going on. I feel too much we complain about what's not happening, and we don't take advantage of what is happening. Even so, so much digital stuff nowadays that we are abandoning physical things. I think we need to start pairing it. Just because it's digital doesn't mean you should stop doing your physical, and vice versa. So community, and just pairing our minds to really galvanize and industrialize the situation, to where I feel like God has given us this platform of this plant to really galvanize communities from when it was a negative thing to now becoming a positive thing. It's like the same way with video games, to where I'm mad at my parents about having me not play the video games now. I have a friend whose son had just got a $300,000 scholarship for video games. And he's moved to LA and is in a mansion. I'm like, that could have been me. So let's not miss this opportunity, and let's not shun our children with certain things. I don't know, it might sound weird, but let's be the parent that might partake with your child when they get of age, rather than keeping it away from them or different things like that, because there's people who don't even smoke that's going to be taking advantage of this. So, I would want to, it's like, just like in school, I would have rather have learned literacy and finance than certain things that don't make any sense at all. You know, I remember I was, it was a horrible thing, but when my father passed away, I got his Social Security benefits, as a kid, and it was it was like I probably had like $80,000, and no one that was in my family, and not to this, my family or anything like that, is knowledge is power. No one in my family had the knowledge to come to me to do anything positive with that money. So much, people borrowed and this and that, but no one came to me to be like, oh, invested here, invested now. So thank God for my sister, Danette Scott, and her maturation and growth, that now she does real estate, and now she does bring that knowledge to me, to where if I'm doing a big party and I make this or that, I go right to her and know I can go to her for property or different things like that. And, so I would once again, I would just say community.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think one of the important ways to put this conversation in perspective is to cite something that is from my own personal experience. 1991 to 1996, a long time ago, my partner, Mindy Thompson-Fullilove, and I conducted a study with funding from the Centers for Disease Control to look at issues of health and disease in Harlem, New York. It was called the Harlem Household Study. For those of you who are academics, you can find it in the American Journal of Preventive Medicine. I'm the first author. But here's what we found in asking people general questions about their health with a specific focus, because it was the 90s, on drug use in Harlem. And here's what we discovered. More than 50% of the adults that we interviewed told us that they had had at least one experience using marijuana. Now think about it. Most people lie on surveys like this. They don't tell you something that they know is going to be looked down upon by the general public. So the actual number probably wasn't 50%. It was probably much higher. What that means to me is that way back in the 90s, use of cannabis was always and had always been something of a norm in the community.
Yep.
Now here's the concern that all of us have. Now that it's become legal, it's not folk in Harlem who are going to be able to control the sale of this substance. Folks really know that if there's a market there, the one thing you want to do is control the source. So what do we have to do to make sure that something that we have been accustomed to using in our community is something that we're in a position to profit from, something where the community itself gets to be the source for... I see you have an answer ready.
Yeah, because I've been doing this. Because I've been inside the State House. Okay, I'm one of those people. I actually, if you go on NJ.gov and go into the MP4 files, everything on a cannabis bill, you'll probably hear me talking shit. Okay, you'll probably hear me saying some things because I've done so much testifying in committees, like I said, with PTSD, but so many other things. First and foremost, you gotta pay these people in the currency that they accept. Let me tell you what happened to me. God bless the day, I was talking to Ron Rice. Me and this is Senator Ron Rice, African-American state senator out of Newark, New Jersey, and big time opponent of cannabis and cannabis legalization, okay? And me and this man, we used to bump heads. We used to go at it, He ultimately ended up turning out to be a really good friend of mine. We became friends only because, that's how I realized that. He only liked me because I argued with him, okay? I used to fight him on everything, right? But one day we was talking, okay? And as I said something, and as I was talking, I caught it. This little part of his nostril, it went up. I caught it. It was ever so slight, but he did it right in my face. And I caught it. And when he did it, I said, oh, you think I'm an addict. That's what this is. You think I'm the same as crack and heroin. All I am, in his mind, was a high-functioning addict, but an addict nonetheless. And it pissed me off, like right then and there, and I went off. And I said, okay, you know what I do. I don't know nothing about none of y'all. So tomorrow morning, Everybody that works in the state house got to take a piss test. How about that? Because I like to swing the big stick early. You know, and he got mad at me because I said that. Because I was like, I want to know who worked for me. I bet you we'll find out all kinds of stuff, won't we, Senator? And he got mad. But I recognized in that moment, I said, oh, see, the reason why things, and you're talking about the community, and the community must get involved. You know why they got away with a lot of the things that they got away with for as long as they got away with it? Because they know that we're not going to vote. That was our problem. I'm gonna tell y'all something. You could say this about New York and any other state, but I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna just give it to you from New Jersey, right? When you talk about cannabis legalization, you messing with 3 types of money, okay? 3. The first type is old money, okay? That's the pharmaceutical industry. They've been operating in New Jersey for generations. The second type of money you messing with is long money. That's the alcohol industry. And we just found out that there are more people who consume cannabis than there are who actually consume alcohol. You used to not be able to say that, but now it's an official thing, okay? And then the third type of money you messing with is big money. That's the prison industrial complex, which has been thriving about this because remember I told you all that stuff about, Bo Robinson closed down, this one closed down. Rahway Prison is rearranging their beds because they are not getting enough. We were you know why cannabis consumers are the #1 prisoners, inmates? You know why they like us so much? Because we're least likely to be violent.
Right.
Okay, stoners are least likely to be violent. We're like, okay, look. You know what I'm saying? That's us. We ain't got time for that. It is what it is. That's us. But when we took it off, see, and I used to say, we have to get the state, part of my expression, we have to get them off this titty and put them on this titty, because this one is the one you need to be on. But the problem is that, understand something, a lot of reputations were made with this being illegal. A lot of careers were made off of this being illegal. A lot of stuff was done with this being illegal. Do you really think they just gonna let that go and ain't nothing gonna come up behind it? We are not talking about facilitating a cultural shift in how we view this plant. We are literally talking about facilitating a massive, massive transfer of wealth. And the logistics behind it almost can't be quantified, which is why I said, at this time in 2025, it's not about that first generation entrepreneur. We got the chiefs, now we need Indians.
That's right.
And you got a lot of people, because of COVID, who went from kind of curious to kind of serious because they had to. And so if there's anything I would say, it's basically, when we talk about mobilizing the community, I'm talking about, first of all, get out and vote. I live in Trenton, New Jersey. There are 38,000 registered voters in Trenton, New Jersey. Guess how many voted in the last local election? 3,000.
Oh,
Out of 38. 3,000. Imagine if we had 30,000 voters. I'm not asking who you voting for, because that's not my concern. My concern is the active voter numbers. That's what I want, because when you have 30,000 people voting, you know what that means? That's an aide running into the governor's office. Governor, 30,000 people just voted in Trenton. For what? Who gives a damn? 30,000 people just voted in Trenton. See, nothing goes down without them coming to talk to you. That's why when you hear about the Iowa caucuses and all that stuff, you know why that's so important? Because those people come out to vote. It's not a thing. They go out and vote. When you hear about these caucuses and stuff like that, that's because they know that population of people will actually come out to vote. And they are banking on all of y'all being disenfranchised, being mad, being whatever. Anything that just will make you so that you be like, I ain't voting. Them people don't care about me. They don't think about this, that, and the third. And it's like, hey, listen, if you don't like the Democrats or the Republicans, you could just write a name in How do you think Jesus, Superman, and Mickey Mouse get votes every presidential election? That's what we have to, if there's any, going back to your first question, I need y'all to take y'all asses out there and get people registered to vote, and then I need y'all to actually vote. That is how we take back, that is how we establish ourselves as an entity that ought to be engaged with in a meaningful way. Because right now, the way they think about us, they think the best of us is entertainers and athletes. Right. If you look at our communities, how many of our communities actually have statesmen? A real actual statesman, someone who actually engages with the current administration on our behalf. Not because you're famous, not because you can jump higher or run faster, but because you know. We were sitting here earlier today, and I was telling him, I'm sitting here trying to figure out some export type of challenges and stuff like that when it comes to industrial hemp. You know, these are the things that we're talking about, but you know what everyone else is talking about? The latest dance, the latest craze, whatever, but everything other than, and then you wonder how we get Trump. So I'm sorry, that was real lengthy, but this is, as y'all can see, look, a lot of battle scars here, okay? I've been through it, trust me, I'm hard-headed. That's the other thing.
Think about it, as a Harlem resident, talk to us.
I almost feel like I should go on the road with this guy because like he's going into my brain saying things that, I would like to articulate, and he's articulating them so well. Empowering. So that's what that's one of the things that I would have wanted to make clear. Empowering, and just on so many different levels of empowering. It's like whatever they was doing for nicotine, plus then they should be doing for cannabis. As of, places like this or places that are ran by Black and brown people, for first and foremost, internships. It should be way more internships within the field for people getting out of high school or even in college, or, because even within the plant, there's so much other jobs. Digital marketing, sales. There's graphic design. There's, so many different ways, so much different levels of income, event planning within cannabis and hemp, so empowering is the thing I would say, just because I feel like we talk so much about the negative aspects of things and we don't harp enough on the positives. And I think, it's like the same kind of question where it's like, do guns kill people or do people kill people because they have guns? So it's like, I feel like cannabis is kind of like that same type of thing. Like it has a negative connotation of use or because of hip hop or whatever, whoever knows. But it's not as negative as is depicted to be,
Can I say something? I'm sorry. I want you all to know this, and I often when I have these conversations, what infuriates me the most about cannabis is that literally 2% of the plant takes up 98% of the conversation.
Right.
If you really were to understand what the benefits of this plant is beyond, if this was a television show, I'm in season 12, episode 6. A lot of people are in season 2, episode 1. So, spoiler alert, it's not a gateway drug. That's the season 2 finale.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and the thing is that it's 2025 and we're still having 2019 conversations.
Right.
And that part is where you have and I remember when I said earlier, I'm in the point of I could show you better than I could tell you type of thing. That's why. Because when we got adult use done in New Jersey, it was mandated that a percentage of all licenses shall go to Black and brown women, minorities, veterans, right? In New York, it's May. Now, okay, I know I'm just a Black man from Trenton, but I'll take shall over May any day because we know whenever it's May, they ain't gonna do it. And now where we are today is New Jersey has exceeded its mandates on licensing. We now have, and I put together a work group, and I'll tell you this. I called the hip hop artist Redman, Kareem Biggs Burks from Rockefeller Records, Branson from up in Harlem. Yep. Some of my friends from the Happy Monkey, okay? And then a bunch of other folks, local folks. And that work group turned into that one phone call turned into a 9-month work group. And you wanna know what came out of that? We now have the Cannabis Training Academy and in New Jersey. So basically, it's to help anybody. It's free, it's self-paced, and there are grants of up to $250,000, $150,000 to help you get started with your business. Next month, the New Jersey Economic Development Authority will be introducing guaranteed loans of up to from 1 million to 10 million for manufacturing cultivators in New Jersey. So right now, as it stands, the single largest investor in the New Jersey cannabis industry is actually the state of New Jersey. And so what we had to do is we had to get a coalition of the willing. And that is where it starts with when you say the community and everything like that, because once you get people galvanized and mobilized, and then you start talking to the folks who are the actual decision makers, then you can start moving mountains.
Right.
And I will also tell you, plug into your veteran community as well, because we're a powerful instrument when wielded correctly.
Really important that I do the job of making sure that those of you who are part of the audience can ask questions as well. We don't have forever, but I do believe that those of you who are really interested, I think the big thing for many of us is, this sounds great. Everybody who's here is probably already 99% convinced. How does one get started? That's to say, it's now become a cultural phenomenon. It's not just selling. Man, it's everything surrounding it. So we're looking at something that could be the horizon of a new day economically for our communities. And everybody here who's not simply an interested observer would love to know, how does one get started?
I would say simply don't overthink it and just really put one foot in front of the other. Don't I look at it like this. The person who created electricity, just think about that type of idea. Like, if he really was like overthink that shit, it might have never happened. You have to just go do it. You have to just put one foot in front of the other. You have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in your prayers. You have to know that God wouldn't give you an idea if it couldn't happen. Amen. So if you had the idea and it's tangible, do that shit.
Is there a 1-800 number that you call?
God is the 1-800 number.
So I will say this is the best part about being me at this time in time, because I can honestly say, you don't need me no more.
Right.
You can go to New Jersey, it's the State Department's Business Action Center, and they have the Cannabis Training Academy. It is designed so that you go from step one to the final one, and then when you get to the final stage, you should have your paperwork done. You should know exactly how you're going to move in the space. You should know. You'll been trained for your knowing your supply chains. You'll know everything. That's the whole point of it. And in New Jersey, legacy is actually a recognized term. So in New Jersey, legacy is. I just had it out. I'll ask me later, and I'll tell you guys that there's a definition that we have for legacy. So basically, Nut and Mucho on the corner can now go get them a license.
Right.
See, we have to go beyond talking hypotheticals and theory. That's what y'all need now. You need practical application. And so that's why I'm happy to be in this place now, because I can say, you don't need me no more. You can go online and you can get started. And it'll tell you. I will say this though. Here's what they don't tell you that's not on that online course. Like I said, number one, it's not for the faint of heart. Number two, Do not try to fit a square peg into a round hole. It ain't gonna happen. Number three, understand something. There will never, ever, ever be another end of prohibition on cannabis ever again. We are the only ones who get to experience it, okay? This work, no matter what, will outlive all of us. None of us will be here to see the penthouse of our work. We are now picking, we're in the stages of picking the new old names. At one time, Anheuser and Busch were new names.
Right.
Now they're old. And that's why I say to you all, none of us will be here to see the penthouse of our work. It is just that much. I told my son, who's 18, and I love this period of time with him because we're always talking stuff. And I said to him, it is very difficult being someone who has the lights constantly on in your head because you go to bed with this on your mind.
100%.
You wake up with this on your
100%.
mind. And it's not that you're obsessing. You're not obsessing. It's just that much work. And if for those of you who are married, I will tell you, you and your spouse need to have a real come to Jesus moment and understand that one of y'all is gonna have to hold it down for the both of y'all, for the whole house. That is the one thing, and understand something, it's gonna look like nothing is happening. It's gonna look like your partner is having the greatest fun of all time and all this other stuff. No, hell no, okay? It is not. But you need to know that because this business trying to get going, especially at this time in time, it's a lot easier now than it was when I first got started, but nonetheless, it's still very difficult.
And on touch on the easy part, which is something that, we also fight against so much, but it's a very tangible and amazing assistant and helper. Do not be afraid of AI. Do not be afraid of it. I'm here today to tell you that ChatGPT shit, if you ask it the right questions and the right things in a very you manner, it will give you your whole mother effing business plan in 30 seconds. Tailored to you. So don't be afraid of these tools that's out here or shunning them because use it for you. Because I've done had 2 weeks of work done in 10 hours because of ChatGPT and these other platforms. And if you're trying to create a business of any sorts, cannabis, fashion, even if you're an artist and you want to get your timeline of what you think you should be doing, it will do that for you too. So definitely run to ChatGPT if you have an idea. Like whenever you have an idea. I don't care if it's like you in the cab and you had a little idea. Just put it in your notes, then put it in ChatGPT and expand on it. So, definitely use all the tools that is being accessed for us.
So, question from the audience. Yes, please.
Oh, sorry. I want to give you this so we get the audio on here.
Do you have to be a resident of New Jersey in order to join that program?
The Cannabis Training Academy? No.
Oh,
It's self-paced though, so you start and stop whenever you want.
Other questions?
Anyone else have any questions?
Well, I certainly can continue to ask questions because I'm
Okay.
a professor,
Right.
and I still am very interested in where we've been going with this. Many folks started because of medical marijuana. There are some obvious medical benefits. We haven't talked about that very much. We've hinted at it with your bill, post-traumatic stress disorder being something that can be treated with this.
Yep.
But can we say more about this so that folk can see that it's more than just getting high?
Well, two things. When I created the cannabis ice cream, a major factor was treating cancer patients of children and older, and spoke to many doctors, and they thought what we created was a godsend because they said the intake of it was very wholesome for them and something that would, help them cope rather than how they were intaking it. And then also me, I used to be 330 pounds and through fasting and cannabis, for me, I don't know if it's like a bad thing, good thing, whatever, but I can fast extremely long if I smoke weed. So like I've been able to fast like from like 3 to 4 to maybe even 5 days just smoking weed.
Well,
And
help me out with this, because
Yeah.
a couple of folk in the audience are having what I would describe as munchy memories.
yeah, no, so you know what it is? It's like like if like when you first intake and whatever you fasting, you do get the munchies. And this is why, I keep on saying this is why God is a very big part of me. My spirituality then takes over, and I'm able to go against it, and it kind of like evaporates itself. And now you're kind of like on a fuel furnace to where you might even have even more energy, even more strength due to the fasting. But something with the cannabis, it like fills my stomach.
Understood.
Yeah.
Say a little bit about PTSD and how the bill is really directed at something that maybe you've seen because you have been in the military, and those are the folk who often PTSD used to be battle shock.
Well, all right. So here's the thing. One of the things I loved about, one of the reasons why I went so hard when it came to PTSD is because, first of all, let's understand something. All consumption is medicinal, whether people realize it or not. You know what I'm saying? The thing is that you have to recognize what it is that you're, like what's the triggers for you. And one of the things that I recognized early on was that PTSD was something that was being associated with just veterans, you know what I'm saying? Right. But again, I'm from Trenton, okay? You can go from one end of Stuyvesant Avenue to the other end of Stuyvesant Avenue, and you're gonna have PTSD.
Right.
Okay? So it ain't just, like it wasn't just a veteran only thing. But hey, I'll use it, I'll work it however I can, to move that, because see, here's the thing. As a veteran, when I'm inside the state house, they talk to me different than they talk to you. And so I might have just a few more moments of some state senator's time or something. And in those moments, I gotta have all my talking points, my bullet points on. I gotta be ready. So when they say thank you for your service, and I've gone down to DC to do this. I've gone down to Maryland to do this. I've been to Pennsylvania. Shit, God damn. I'm sorry, just realized, damn, it's a lot. Man. My birthday's on Wednesday, y'all. I turned 50. Woo! And I'm just like, damn, thank you. And I'm in this reflective mode because I'm just like, man, I'm looking at my youngest, and I'm like, when I got started, your mom was pregnant with your little ass. I'm sorry, I was just having a moment. But during that time period, a lot of this legislation is what was going on. And we also expanded the medical marijuana program to allow for other qualifying conditions. Wasn't just PTSD. We got, what is it, ladies, when you have the real severe cramps from your menstrual cycle? Is that what it is? When it's really, really intense? All right, you can get your medical marijuana card for that. You also can get, there's like 17 more qualifying conditions now that have been added overall. It's also now illegal for you to be fired from your job if you have your medical marijuana card, depending on certain jobs. Municipalities in the state of New Jersey are responsible for their municipal workers' medical cannabis and their cards. So it's all free. And then medical cannabis, for a municipal worker, it has to work more like a copay. You know what I'm saying? So what you would pay for a copay is what you would get for an ounce of cannabis in New Jersey. And so I recognized early on that in order for it to be effective, it had to be all inclusive. So it wasn't just PTSD. PTSD just covered everybody that was in the hood, and that was the thing, because we had some school shootings. Y'all remember the school shootings and shit? Okay. There was a 8-year-old little girl who caught a bullet to the chest because some dude was upset about something that was said about him on Facebook. And he got the shooting, and she caught one. and it pissed me off. But I'm talking to these kids about it, right, in a Starbucks. And I said to them, you guys really want to get something started? You want to get into some good trouble? Remember when the congressman said get into good trouble? Okay. So I told them, I said, look, this ain't normal. So this is what y'all do. Go home, go get 2 or 3 of your friends, and then you go talk to y'all parents, and then y'all get signed up for the medical marijuana program as minors, because in New Jersey you can consume your cannabis at school. You have to bring it to the nurse, and it has to be in the edible form. Now, my thought process was, you get a bunch of kids bringing their weed to the school, the adults are gonna go nuts. But what are you going nuts about? The fact that they brought their weed to school, or the thing that made them get PTSD to have to go get it? See what I mean by good trouble? So you gotta learn how to, you gotta play the game that these people are playing, and don't expect you to come at them in a way that they didn't see coming. And so now, and that was actually from Governor Chris Christie, because he's the one who made it so that, because what used to happen is parents would have to come to the school, get you off the school campus, you can consume your cannabis and then bring you back. That was too much. Now you can just take your cannabis to the school nurse, and then she administers how you need, as long as it's an edible.
Wow.
So,
Well, you know.
final thought, as a public health professor, what do we know about this conversation? Number one, there are no substances that human beings take that are completely without risk.
Correct.
So let's be clear that we've been talking about all the positives, but we also have to be aware of the fact that we've not really studied what it's like to have large numbers of folk consuming this substance in the way it's probably going to be observed over the course of the next couple of years. And I know folk are going to say, ooh, but doesn't that create a risky situation? We talked about prohibition and what happened when we went off prohibition. Maybe this is the moment to talk about, what do we do about the risks that had people feeling that marijuana should be penalized, that it should be something that is rendered as a crime? What do we say to those folks who are worried about the risks?
Well, number one, cannabis has a kill column. First and foremost, no one has ever died from consuming cannabis.
Can the
Zero.
congregation say amen?
Yeah, zero. Like I said, I just swing the big stick early. You know what I'm saying? Number two, because we just said that, this officially became, we now know more people consume cannabis than actually consuming alcohol. Legalization doesn't create new consumers. They just came out the closet. And you used to not be able to say this, but you probably know more people who smoke weed than don't. You know what I'm saying? We're just, I just found out there's a couple of bishops who actually consume, and it's like, God damn, like really? So yeah, I would say, understand that, number one, we're talking about something that has a zero in the kill column. Is there, if you are on mental health medicines and stuff like that, I would actually talk to a mental health professional about that, especially because, so there is the risk of, you having an adverse reaction, but the one thing you're not going to do is you're not going to die. That's the one thing, and again, recognizing that we are not drug addicts. See, when someone, let me give you a secret. Let me give you all a secret. When someone says marijuana, I already know I know more than you. Someone who still says marijuana is the same as someone who still calls black people colored. We'd be like, ooh, what year are you? Because you date yourself. You actually date yourself. To the professionals and the stone at the culture, I already know I know more than you. Because we haven't, a lot of this stuff, like gateway drug, if you're still saying gateway drug, man, that was debunked years ago, okay? That is no longer the case. So what we are doing is, I find myself battling against old, debunked ways of thinking that no longer exist. And the problem is that a lot of these people, we're asking a bunch of Flintstones to write rules to a Jetsons game. They keep fucking it up. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing that's where we're having the biggest issues because they don't know. They still think this is drugs and we addicts and the devil's lettuce. And do you guys know who the number one hardest group of people to talk to about this? Who's the number one hardest group of people to talk to about this? Senior citizens. No. Black church people. Black church, you know why? Because black church people are way more conservative than what you would find on Fox News. They don't play this shit. You know what I'm saying? And understand something. Traditionally, the black church has been viewed as the gatekeepers to the African American community. Yeah. See, we got a ways to go. Could y'all imagine if the black church were to get into this industry? Oh, we take it over in a minute. We take it over instantaneously. But we've been sold a bad bill of goods. We have been sold. I'm one of the plaintiffs that was in the lawsuit against the Department of Justice. We were suing Jeff Sessions over the constitutionality of cannabis being a Schedule I drug. You know, in order to be a Schedule I drug, you have to have high addiction rate, it has to hit all three markers: high addiction, zero medical benefits, and I forget what the third thing is, but not 2 out of the 3, all 3. Now, it's oxymoronic that it's a Schedule I drug, but then you got all these state medical marijuana programs. Okay, it never should have been Schedule I from the rip. And so this was something that was used against us. So it's not so much the efficacy of cannabis so much as it is the racial profiling, the racial aspects of being able to prosecute people for this. But recognize efficacy wise, this is all consumption is medicinal. People just don't realize why they're consuming as much as they are.
So I don't know where we are on time, but you've been signaling me that we're getting very close. Final words before we wrap this up.
No, just love the space first and foremost. Like amazing space. Like when I came here, like totally impressed. Like so good. Like from Denver to LA to New York, this might be one of the dopest spaces I've graced.
Good choice of words.
You know, 100%. And let's just be solution based. You know.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's just, as we move forward, let's just be solution-based. There's always an answer for a question. You know.
I would say, I've been saying a lot. First off, I want to say, Fran, thank you for having me here.
Yeah.
I think this is much needed.
Much needed.
I think, these are wonderful. This was a wonderful therapy session. You know, this is the first time I've been out in this type of setting in over 6 months to where I get to engage directly with people in the community. You know, you all are beautiful to me, and I think that what we have to do is definitely go beyond the hypothetical and theory. And we actually need more examples of practical application.
Yes.
You know, let's stop talking about what if and maybe. Nah, this is what's happening. And we need to start identifying our leaders in the cannabis space.
Amen.
You know, and they need to be time appropriate. You know, Michael Jordan, Oprah Winfrey, and Al Sharpton are not Michael Jordan, Oprah Winfrey, and Al Sharpton in the cannabis space. I mean, we know who we are. We know who they are, but they ain't that. You know, and what we need to do, my brother, what we need to do is we need to make sure that we start identifying those whom we're going to start listening to. And I'm sorry, but I'm not down with the whole, entertainers, athletes, and all that stuff. That don't mean nothing. Right. Not unless you're doing look, y'all, start pulling people's receipts. Start looking under the hood.
Right.
That's my last word. Look under the hood and start pulling people's receipts. It'll blow your mind. Because you got a lot of people who think they are something that they really aren't, and they present themselves as such, and it's, no, what have you actually done? Can you show me what you have done? What you have done? And that's where, that's my last bit.
Did you say your last word? Oh, did you have last words?
Let me just say that in a long life, if there's one lesson I've learned, it's that silence is deadly. Therefore, the path to something that looks like life begins with conversation. I think we've had a good one here today. Thank you all for being here.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yes, we will. So we actually, everyone give yourselves a hand. Thank you so much for being here.